As you can see from some of the photos here, there is a long history and many years of tradition. We have families from around the St. Louis area who've been coming to Thurtene Carnival for generations. And it is a very regular occurrence that we will have grandparents with their grandkids walking through the carnival lot that tell our students that they were themselves carnival attendees when they were kids. And so it's a really fun tradition of WashU and our surrounding community. And it really is a community event. This brings together the Washington University community and our students and all the work that faculty and staff do, but really opens the door to the St. Louis community as well, which I think is a really unique and fun way to bring the St. Louis community into our campus. Carnival goers, both young and old, from around the greater St. Louis area are enjoying what Thurtene Carnival has to offer. So in addition to carnival rides, the Washington University students spend a lot of time putting together various elements of the carnival. So you'll see here that the carnival has game booths. You'll see here that the carnival has a lot of food booths of varying kinds. Some that are familiar with the campus may recognize Rabbi Hershey Novak in the upper right-hand corner with the Chabad house selling kosher dogs and knishes. That's been a very regular element of Thurtene Carnival for years. Lower right-hand corner, you've got the students that sell funnel cakes, which are a perennial bestseller. Delta Sigma Pi fraternity sells the funnel cakes. The Lock and Chain sophomore honorary is making some lemonade. And then in the upper left-hand corner, Ashoka, the Indian student group, is selling samosas and mango lassi. So the food has been a really fun part of Thurtene over the years. And so much so that in 2018, Thurtene was selected to be featured on the HG show called Carnival Eats. So lots of good games, lots of good food, and in some instances, food and games come together in such as a delightful pudding toss here, as you see. Thurtene is really also a showcase for some of the best Washington University talent. We have stage performances featuring our a cappella groups. We'll have bands playing this year. A lot of times they'll have either improv troupes or comedy groups from our student body that are performing in addition to dance and other performance groups there. And we also invite members of our community to come in and perform as well. So this is from last year's carnival, local four-part harmony group called Poetic Sounds performed. And it's really, again, just another element of bringing the St. Louis community and the Washington community together. Over the years, Thurtene Carnival has bounced between the west end of campus, as you see our current location, and the east end of campus, which is in front of Brookings, really with the various buildings that we've had over time has dictated when we're moving back and forth. So we were on the west end of campus before Siegel Hall was built. When Siegel Hall was built, we bounced over to the east end until Whitaker Hall was built. We bounced back to the athletic complex and then have been back and forth. But right now, our current home is here. You can see that the Summers Recreation Center is kind of one side of a barbell, and Simon Hall parking lot is the other side of the barbell. That's where all the rides are housed. And we actually work with a professional carnival company, American Banner Amusements. And then the midway in between those two is where the student food and game booths are housed. So Olympian Way is kind of the fairgrounds that people walk through between the rides. So what makes Thurtene Carnival special? Number one, Thurtene is great for admissions. This is actually a photo from a view book that admissions had several years ago. We know that incoming college students really resonate with colleges and universities that have longstanding traditions. And so the fact that we are this oldest and largest student-run carnival is something that is really highly valued by our students that are looking to attend. And it's something as well that our carnival happens to be in April, which is a big, big visit month for students that are deciding on where they want to go to school. Anyone who's been on campus this week sees tons of tour groups walking around campus, and walking past the lot and explaining what all Thurtene is about is a big part of our admissions piece. Thurtene is also good for our students. Some people were asking about facades. And this is something that if you're talking with alumni who've been involved with Thurtene over the years, these facades are freestanding structures. You can see the scale. If that's a 5.5, 6 foot human being, these are significant structures. And they are freestanding that the students have designed. They build over several weeks and a week on site leading up to the carnival. And it really is a showcase of student talent and creativity. And it is a huge planning undertaking. These are in the exterior, you've seen that. In the interior, the facades themselves actually hosted, it was like a playhouse. You had student groups that were performing the skits that they had ultimately written and produced on their own. Oftentimes they would have music that they would perform in the back, but then you can see the audience sitting in these buildings. And this was something that was a very exciting part of Thurtene over the years. It's something that at this point in time, we've actually had to scale back a little bit. And I'll talk about that here in a moment. But as we think about why Thurtene has been good for students over the years, we talk about really important life lessons. This is kind of like a barn raising, if you can imagine the amount of human labor and work that it takes to coordinate these things. Things like time management, teamwork, project management, budgeting, overcoming adversity, goal setting, all of those things are what our students talked about, both on the honorary that puts together the carnival and the student groups that participated. So thanks to COVID, actually, Thurtene Carnival has only been canceled one time prior to COVID, and that was during World War II. The precursor to Thurtene, the Yonville Circus, was canceled during World War I, but those are the only times that we haven't been able to have Thurtene Carnival. And with 2020 and 2021, we had to pause. And I mentioned to the group that was here a little bit earlier, we lost a lot of momentum with our student groups because so much of the complexity of planning and budgeting and all the skills that it takes to build those complex structures were lost. Last year, the only people on campus that had participated in Thurtene were seniors. And so we are really in a rebuilding mode this year. And what we've done is we're using the wood that went into the facades, and we have more than 20 student groups this year that are building freestanding booths that they will have their food and game booths performed out of, and they'll be designing those this week. So anyone who is on campus can see that process going on today. Thurtene is good for students because of problem solving. Here's an example of trying to figure out how to fit a 150-pound trash can full of stuff into a dumpster that is 6 feet tall. So these are 4 students that are trying to problem solve. The bonding that happened over time for our student groups and the students that talk about Thurtene is really remarkable. The work that they're doing in the context of that, it really was a galvanizing thing for our student body, especially as they came together to perform and share their creativity and fun with the broader St. Louis community. So another thing that makes Thurtene special is Thurtene is good for our alumni relations. So many of our alumni recall the carnival fondly and their experience with Thurtene, and that for a number of years, we've actually coincided our 1st through 45th reunions with the Thurtene Carnival in April. And we did that intentionally, migrating all of our reunions from May. This has been probably 12, 13 years ago that we did that. The first year that we migrated to Thurtene Carnival weekend, we saw a 300% increase in the number of alumni that came back. So I would love to say that that was Thurtene that did it. And I think also April is a great time compared to May that people might come back to campus. So we have a great opportunity. And this weekend, we have a number of our alumni who are going to come back to celebrate their reunion in conjunction with Thurtene Carnival. So another piece, and I'll stop sharing here in a moment, but something that we get endorsements from alumni from time to time. Some of you may know that Rochelle Walensky, who is the head of the Center for Disease Control, is a WashU alumna. And last spring, she came back to St. Louis and spoke with Dean Hu for an alumni event that Susan Cohen and the Alumni Association put on. So Dean Hu asked her a question about what her fondest memory of Thurtene was. So I'm going to share that with you right now.
One final question. I'm sure this conversation has led you to reflect on your days as a student here in St. Louis. And what is your absolute favorite memory from your days as a student at WashU?
There are so many of them, and it was so great to be back. Certainly seeing some friends from some old friends, some young friends, but they're from a long time ago. It has just been amazing for me, the connections. And I think the pandemic did this is to help make more connections. People connected more in Zoom. People just were able to connect more. I loved Thurtene. It was springtime. It was children. It was fun. It was a time to let go. I loved Thurtene Carnival. I have so many wonderful memories, but I loved Thurtene Carnival.
So it is not often that you get an endorsement from the head of the Center for Disease Control of your alumni carnival, but our students were exceedingly proud to be able to have that endorsement, and I think it's a testament to what we see as a really special part of our alumni and their connection to Thurtene over the years. So the final thing that I think makes Thurtene special is that we select a community partner each year, and the idea is really to lift up and shine the light and give PR to an organization in the community. It's really the purpose of Thurtene is really to bring the St. Louis community and the Washington University community together. And being able to do that is expensive and takes a lot of resources and energy, but it's also something that in the years where the weather is good and the Thurtene Carnival is profitable, Thurtene donates those net proceeds to the community partner that the group selects every year. And so this year's carnival, we're partnering with Arch City Defenders. For those of you that are not aware, Arch City is a holistic legal advocacy organization combating the criminalization of poverty and state violence, especially in communities of color. So I want to move into the who puts on Thurtene Carnival. The Thurtene Honorary is a group that has been on campus actually predating the Thurtene Carnival. It dates back to the very early years of 1900. It is comprised of 13 members of the junior class, and they are selected. The seniors who've been on Thurtene are selecting their successors, and the focus is really on leadership, character, and service. So Thurtene Honorary was founded, as I said, in the early 1900s. It was a secret society similar to a fraternity or sorority, and has perpetuated as an organization for those many years. So for nearly a century, Thurtene was the junior men's honorary. There was a junior women's honorary, and Chimes was the name of that organization, which still exists on campus. But in 1991, Thurtene became co-ed. And there is a longer story to that I won't jump into today, but Thurtene is a much better organization for it. And you can see from these photos that Thurtene is about equally distributed between male and female. But the thing that I'm most proud of, these are 6 of the previous most current Thurtene member years. And you can see that they are just among the most diverse student groups on WashU's campus. So this is this year's Thurtene members. And this year's 13 members are right now on the carnival lot, building and preparing, hopefully wearing sunscreen and trying to get some sleep at night. But the way that it works is that each member of Thurtene has a specific position, a specific responsibility. So there's a president who is the convener. They set the agenda. They work with me and the university administration. They have a treasurer that takes care of the expenses and revenues and makes sure that the finances of Thurtene are sound. We have public relations. We've got a team that does that makes sure to get the word out, and we've got a lot of people coming to our carnival. We have construction and electrical chairs that are responsible for enforcing the safety rules and helping the student groups with the designs of their buildings, with a lot of the construction to make sure that it's a safe work site. We have site managers who are responsible for the location of each of the elements of the carnival, providing security for the carnival, figuring out where we're putting things like porta potties and ATMs and food booths and game booths. We have a position that also works internally with the student groups to coordinate all of their involvement. As I said, we have more than 20 booths, but I think there are probably 35 or 40 student groups participating in 13. We've got another host of groups that are actually going to perform on the stage. And so this really truly is an opportunity to lift up the best of Washington University and celebrate that with the St. Louis community. We have a position that works with our alumni of the honorary itself and also coordinating with our alumni relations team as it relates to this weekend. And finally, there are a lot of university officials who help to facilitate the Thurtene Carnival. I am a part of this, and I spend a little bit of time getting to know our students through weekly meetings, but we have Washington University Police, we have parking and transportation, we have our colleagues in facilities, the environmental health and safety group, just a bevy of different areas, community relations, who work to really help our students make this successful and phenomenal experience. So I really just with that want to say thank you. I appreciate your participating in today's session and wanting to learn about 13. I really hope that you and your family or friends would attend the carnival. It's this Friday night from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 8. And with that, I'm happy to, again, just thank you all for participating and open the floor to any questions you might have.
I have to say there are some questions. So someone asked, Jamie Barron asked, what does the planning timeline look like? When do they begin?
Sure. Each year, the group is selected on or around Halloween-ish, let's just say. Early November is when that new group is onboarded. So they start meeting about every week, and they'll do that through Thanksgiving, ultimately through winter break, and things really in earnest begin following winter break. So in early to mid-January is when we start doing really intensive planning. And then meetings with the university officials. We have a weekly standing meeting that the students run with all the folks I mentioned, Washington PD and others, called the Roundtable. And so they start meeting weekly, end of January, early February, and we'll meet tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with that group. So the students are really on top of it, and it's just really fun to see their experience. I've joked before that 13 and the experience that our students have is kind of a cross between The Apprentice and Survivor. The Apprentice, if people remember that show from back in the day, again, it's gotten maybe a little bit more politically charged given some of the characters involved, but this was a show where people were running businesses, right? They had teams and they were doing different tasks and had to do different challenges. And 13 really is all about putting together things for sponsorships and things for plans and things for coordinating student groups and coordinating vendors and signing contracts and setting dates. It really gives the students a great experience of what it means to do project management and kind of run a business. And it's Survivor because we're in Missouri in April. And last year, Friday of the carnival, it snowed. Saturday of the carnival, it was in the 60s, and Sunday, I think it was probably 75 degrees. So we get all of our seasons in Missouri in April. We, again, have been exceedingly fortunate this year that the weather has really cooperated, but we have evacuated the carnival because of tornadoes in the past. We've had massive deluges. There have been, hail and snow and other things like that, and our students have written evacuation plans, and they're in charge of making those things happen. So that's a long answer to your short question, but the short question is it starts in October, November, and goes until after the carnival. They're wrapping things up kind of through the end of the academic year.
These students that are picked, or do they nominate students? How do these students get picked for this honorary group? And are they across different classes, like seniors down to freshmen, so that everybody's not all leaving at the same time, or how does that work?
Sure. It is the 13 junior honorary. So it is only members of the junior class. They are selected by the seniors that were their predecessors. And so there is an application process and an interview process that goes on. But it is really, again, the things I mentioned before, leadership, character, and service are the things that they are really trying to focus on as they're looking for their groups. And it's also something that the knowledge that's handed down year over year, and this is what was challenging because of the pandemic, we didn't have students that knew what Thurtene Carnival was. They heard about it, they may have seen pictures of it, but all of the logistics that went into it last year, we really spent a lot of time teaching the students what needed to happen. And so it is an oral tradition. It's an oral history that's passed down, and the seniors this year have been really helpful to help train the juniors. But it is across just the junior class, and there certainly is a hope that the students that are involved actively with the student group over their years of WashU would step up and really want to help put on this carnival.
And then going back to the history, the symbol, the logo that you guys have with that skull and 13, how did that come about? What is the significance of that logo?
Sure. What I would say is it's kind of similar to if anyone is involved with a fraternity or a sorority or other kind of group like that, where you've got your rituals or your traditions or your secrets that you have. So there are things that are meaningful to the members of 13 that they hold close to themselves, that bring them together. So the idea of those in the same way, again, that you'd see a crest or something like that of a different Greek group, it's along those lines.
Okay, and then they all have yellow jackets. So I am supposing yellow is the color.
Yellow is the color. There is some element, and Mr. Burmeister can comment on this. For years and years and years, the 13 men's honorary all wore these really light London fog kind of windbreakers. And that was kind of like a letterman's jacket of sorts for 13. And probably somewhere in that 1990, 91, 92, they realized that the Four Seasons of St. Louis that happened in the month of April, they've started to move more into kind of the rain jacket / ski jacket to put up with cold and other weather elements. But there's also some utility to it as well, because when they are on the carnival lot and they're in the process of building, when something happens, it's pretty easy to spot the yellow jacket and know who to go to in case of a need, in case of emergency.
Okay, and then here's another question. Is the carnival self-supporting? And do you know approximately how much it costs to put this carnival on?
Yeah, the university over time has done some elements of support. And some of these were things that have evolved over time. When we think about it right now, even with the university, the facilities team, we have trucking day where we actually pay to store all of that wood that you see from those facades and that are being built in the food and game booths. They store that out at the Tyson Research Center, right? So that's out near Six Flags off of Highway 44. We pay to store the wood at Tyson. There are some things that the university has helped with. Actually, the year that I was a student, Mr. Burmeister can attest to this, but 13 spent a bunch of money to actually build electrical infrastructure into the parking lot on Brookings, in front of Brookings, so that we could have power to all the carnival booths, because we had to usually before we're stringing electricity out there. And a couple of years later, when the university said, sorry, we're building Whitaker Hall, even though 13 just invested a whole bunch of money in that, we're going to need to move you back over to the west side of campus. And at that point, we made an agreement that they would help offset some of the expenses for electricity because of that move. So there is a lot of university support overall, just in helping to enable the carnival, but it is not a student union funded group. And that's a little bit of what I talked about in terms of kind of the apprentice concept, where they are talking about sponsorships. The revenue really comes in as a result of carnival rides. And that's where it is so dependent on Mother Nature as to whether or not we're going to have a lot of people come out to the carnival and ride rides. So there is a reserve that we've built up over the years. And in the bad weather years, if we are not able to have revenue to offset those expenses, we've got a little bit of a buffer. But it really is up to the students to help make that happen. And we were fortunate that we had a little bit of a boost this year as a result of trying to get student groups back engaged. We have some alumni that also will donate back to 13 over time, but the revenue is really primarily driven either from sponsorships, which you'll appreciate that our West Campus group, the cafe here, that Subway franchisor, has offered some support for 13 this year. But there's a lot of other, just that's something that every year, one of the positions of 13 is out looking to get some revenue through sponsorships. More so than anything, it's based on people riding rides and our partnership with the Carnival Company.
Awesome. Another person asked, please remind me where the music stages will be.
Thank you for asking that. You will not be able to miss it if you go into the Carnival, because it is a almost concert-like stage. If people have ever been to Lou Fest or any of those other community sorts of events, but it will be at the southwest corner of the Simon Hall parking lot. Kind of, if you know where the underpass is that goes to the South 40, kind of on the upper level of that parking lot, right by the underpass.
Okay, great. And then do you know approximately how many music groups are going to be performing over this whole weekend?
The last that I heard, I think we were up to 14. And so mostly Saturday and Sunday. I actually checked in with the person on our 13 website to give put that up on the website, the tentative list of performances. Anybody that is a St. Louis Post-Dispatch subscriber, last year we made the front page of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch with the Bhangra, the dance club that was on the stage last year. So they're great performances, and it will be throughout the day, mostly Saturday and Sunday. I think they had a few that may have been on Friday night, but the one thing I will say for Friday night, if anybody has kids or has a wish to ride a lot of rides, on Friday night only, they have a one price $20 wristband that you can buy, and you can ultimately ride unlimited rides on Friday night. So you can ride until that funnel cake is ready to resurface. But that's a really fun time. I don't know that we'll have as many performances on Friday night, but definitely Saturday and Sunday.
And how late does the fair stay open?
We're 4 to 8 on Friday and 11 to 8 Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, so daylight hours anyway.
Mhm.
Then let me see. Will the shuttles be running from West Campus to the fair? Or
Yeah, the shuttles should be running. I mean, whatever the normal weekend schedule, I don't think there is any special schedule for shuttles for the carnival. I honestly don't know if the shuttles run normally as they do from West Campus to the Danforth campus over the weekend, but that should not change. So whatever that normal schedule setting is there. Parking on campus, as long as you're not in a red spot, is also free after 5 p.m. on Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So don't park in red spots, but you can park on campus. A lot of people will be in the Duck parking garage. The entrance to the carnival is actually where the Olympic rings are, so outside of Siegel Hall. So if you want to park the Snowway parking garage, the Millbrook parking garage, any of those on the north side of campus, you're welcome to as well.
And are there any regular local sponsors?
No, year over year. I mean, when I was a student, for a long time, we had radio stations that would come and they would do live performances from the carnival. We've had anything from this year, Subway, Coca-Cola is a very regular sponsor. So I guess that's one that I would say on a pretty regular basis, Coca-Cola has been helpful to us. But it's been banks, it's been Kaplan Tutors, it's been any number. I think Mathnasium was a sponsor last year. So each year they are looking for sponsors to help offset some of the costs.
And then along with local companies, do any local restaurants also come on site, or is all the food created pretty much by the students?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things moving back and forth from the east end to the west end of campus. St. Louis County is very different in terms of how many hoops you need to jump through for food permits compared to St. Louis City. And so when we were on the east end of campus, we were in city limits, which was a little bit of a different set of bureaucracy than being in St. Louis County right now. There are not specific restaurants that are themselves participating in the carnival. However, student groups will partner with a local restaurant. So I showed the picture of the students with the samosas and mango latte. The samosas were purchased from Havali Indian restaurant on Page, if anybody has been there. And then the Ashoka student group would sell those. So there is oftentimes purchased food. Last year's community partner was actually called Welcome Neighbor, which was an organization that sponsors and really helps refugees that are in St. Louis to get settled and to find kind of a foothold here in the St. Louis community. And one of the special things that Welcome Neighbor does is supper clubs, where they make all of these amazing meals from their home country. So I think last year's carnival, Welcome Neighbor set up a booth. They were selling Kurdish food. They were selling Afghan food. They were selling Indian food. They were selling, I think, Iraqi food. So it was really a fun thing. They were hoping to participate this year as well, but unfortunately, at the last minute, they were unable to attend. But there will be other good food to enjoy this year. The Carnival Company also has a concession wagon with your traditional, cotton candy, nachos, corn dogs, things like that.
Okay, and then as far as seating, say to watch any of the musicians, chairs are set up, or do people bring their own little lawn chairs?
It wouldn't be a bad thing to bring your own chair, especially if you want to set up for a while. Where the stage is set up, if you saw the picture of the inside of those facades, some of that seating, so it's basically 2x4 kind of wooden benches that are built, are set up for people to sit and watch the performances. It all depends on the crowds. I know last year that seating area was very, very full, but there's a lot of curbs and a lot of areas around there to sit. And then, for folks that want to just come and enjoy a beautiful day, there are some kind of general seating areas around the carnival, and then, certainly plenty of seating outside on campus. So if everything is overtaken in the carnival because it's so crowded, enjoy some time in the benches outside of Siegel Hall or elsewhere on campus.
Okay, and then someone asked, where did the name 13 come from?
So the spelling of 13 is unique, obviously. And some of that is kind of back to the early days when the precursor to 13 Carnival was the Yunvi Circus, spelled, I think, either Y-O or UNVEESIRKUSS. I don't know what it was about, but back in the day, it was really fun to misspell things. So the early groups of 13 membership was anywhere from 4 to more than 13, but ultimately the number of members of the 13 honorary is 13, and it's been that way for many years. So that's where 13 comes from.
And then there's a capital E at the end, or not?
There is. Some of that is just some design elements. Again, if Mr. Burmeister has more context that he would like to share, but I would say more so it's not something that's a huge, substantial meaning.
Then you said people pay for the rides, of course. They pay for their food and drink, but do you also have like little stations set up for, say, if a person wanted to give a donation? Is there an opportunity to do that at the carnival while they're there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. There is no fee, right? There is no admission fee to 13. So you're welcome to come and enjoy everything. But yeah, any of the food, any of the game booths, other things like that, any of the rides, there are costs to do that. If you go to the 13 website today, you can actually get a little bit of a discount. There are pre-sale tickets for purchase up until, I think they'll probably cut it off on Thursday night. But as far as the ability to make a donation, Arch City Defenders will have a booth at the carnival, and there would be an opportunity certainly to support them directly. Again, the way that the situation has worked out over the years, we hope that 13 is a profitable endeavor. We hope that tons of people come and that there end up being significant proceeds. And we hope that we're able to support Arch City Defenders with that. but we're really clear that so many other factors are involved with that, if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate or if the crowds just aren't where they are, we will really try to do all that we can to lift up Arch City Defenders and those who would want to support them directly, because it's a great organization, can do so directly at the carnival.
And then, Brian, all the years that you served and also participated in, what is your favorite memory about Thurtene Carnival? What was one that really stands out to you?
I have so many memories of Thurtene over the years. Some were I would be the one that would kind of get choked up as I watched the students interact and the pride and what they were doing with just seeing all of their work, all of their efforts come together, and just looking at the look. I mean, I had a picture of a little girl in my early slideshow about the community. The looks on the kids' faces when they're there is something that is really spectacular. But I will say it's hard to really boil that down to one singular memory. One of the best things that I love about Thurtene, and having now done it for many years, and I know Jim Burmeister will echo this sentiment as well, but the students that are involved are really a great tie for me to our undergraduate population. And I keep in touch with them. I'm actually going to be officiating a wedding in June of 2 members of Thurtene in Berkeley, California, which is about as honored an opportunity as you can imagine. And so I may be going to have my favorite Thurtene memory to come the weekend of June 17th.
I can very well imagine. That is exciting. And how many weddings have you officiated so far? Is this your first?
This will be my second. And actually the first was a member of my year on Thurtene. So there's a tie. Apparently my weddings are restricted to members of this honor. But I'm happy to do others if anybody would like.
Be careful of what you ask for. Well, Brian, this has really been a pleasure listening to all
Maureen,
your history. And I was going to introduce Jim.
Brian,
Jim, go ahead. You're on.
I'm on.
Yes.
It's a miracle. I'm at the other campus down at the med school. But any rate, the talk and what Brian said was excellent, an excellent history of Thurtene over the years. The only thing that I would add is that the skull, for some reason, in 1904, when Thurtene first began, it was a very secret organization. Nobody really knew who belonged to it. When you go to Hatchet from that year, the yearbook from that year, you'll see that there's absolutely no names. It's just a skull. And so how the skull really came about, I don't know, but it's been there since 1904.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
And I will say too that I've shared this with some others, but when Jim Burmeister stepped down from being advisor in 2005, a group of us alumni that had stayed in touch said, we got to do something to honor Jim Burmeister for his 35 years of advising this honorary. And so a group of us came together, and quick math, if you multiply 13 times 35, there's 455 alums that had been under his tutelage, under his advising, and about 150 of them came back for the Thurtene Carnival in 2006. So I was involved in coordinating some planning, and we raised some money for the Burmeister Plaza, which is in the village. And that year, they introduced me to Rich Lewis, who some of you may recall was one of the vice chancellors within university development at that point. And Rich Lewis said to me, Brian, you're an alum and you're working in higher education. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time, working at another university. And he said, would you be interested in thinking about coming back to your alma mater? So that was in April of 2006. And as Maureen introduced me, my first day was in July of 2006. And so Jim Burmeister is a big reason why I've been hanging out for the last 17 years here at Washington University. And Thurtene is also just a great part of that experience. So appreciate you listening to me pontificate about it, and hope that that gives you some context as you think about attending and talking with alumni about their experience with it.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you too, Jim, for coming and adding to our meeting. I want to draw everybody's attention, of course, to our chat, because back in 1997, Brian interviewed Chancellor Wrighton at the carnival, and it's really interesting. So if you get a chance, go and click on that YouTube video to watch Brian. I can't tell the difference between the Brian now and the Brian then. They look the same. He has not aged.
I was saying this before. I looked like I was 47 years old back in 1997.
But
No.
I'm amazed by everything that I've seen about Thurtene Carnival and everything that it takes to put on. It's phenomenal.
Maureen, you were the one that invited me to give this presentation, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, it's humbling to me that a number of folks took their lunch hour to learn more about it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you for coming. And I definitely want to welcome everyone here to come to a Toastmasters meeting. We're here every Tuesday on Zoom. Each week, someone gives a speech. We're all trying to improve our leadership skills and our speaking skills. It's all about getting rid of those filler words, being able to be concise, and also just be able to have your speeches flow. I have to say, Brian, I liked how you put your speech together today. It flowed very well. You had those titles and brought us right along. We journeyed with you through the years. So again, that link that you used to get on to the Toastmaster meeting today, you can use it on any Tuesday. The other thing that I want to mention is this weekend is our district Toastmasters conference. We too raise money for great organizations. So there is this weekend on Friday night, a trivia game that we're going to be raising money to pay for dues for people that are in prison that want to increase their skills so that when they get out of jail, they've got leadership skills and they've got speaking skills. And we've had different prisoners be keynote speakers at some of our international meetings. It's quite the adventure what some of these people go through to take themselves from the bottom and lift themselves up. So I encourage any of you, if you want to go on to our District 8 website, and I believe someone has just put up, Give Butter is the trivia night information. And then also Liz Gunn put some information about Jim Burmeister back in the day. So anyway, thank you all for coming. This was a spectacular meeting. I think we all got a lot out of it. I know I did, Brian. I really appreciate you stepping up. I know your life is super busy, work is super busy, and taking this hour with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
And with that, again, I just want to close with maybe just a moment of silence for Mike DeRusio. Keep them in your thoughts. And thank you, everyone.